Live. All right, good. And the show started. So go ahead, Charles.
No, let's go ahead. Go ahead. You were talking about Zero Brain.
This weekend, I'm polishing my glasses like an old man here. This weekend, I ran into a situation where I finally needed to break down and use an integrated debugger to work on a project. It was too complicated for me to figure out what was going on purely by visual inspection or using a few print statements here and there. Now, I got a new client that I'm working with, and they got a very complicated piece of code. They needed something fixed really fast, so I didn't have time, like I normally would, to sort of like dig in and just get the whole thing in my head. So I needed to get my hands on a debugger that would work, and I was using Sublime. And if the Sublime guys are listening, hey, I'm sorry, I love your product, but I was having a lot of problems. I don't know if it's you or what. I was just having troubles. So I looked for another tool this weekend, and I ended up going with Zero Brain. And my fear is that I would be spending a lot of time figuring out a new tool, but it was really quick to use, easy to install, easy to set up, and it just worked out of the box. And I was able to do the debugging. There were a couple things that are a little bit different between the two editors, so I kind of had to work through that, but I found the problem and fixed it, so good enough.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I never really got into the debugger in Sublime, so you have to do a lot of configuration and stuff. That, at least I had. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's this is a slippery slope. Slippery. I've already noticed it actually. I used Zero Brain this weekend on their project. And then I was sort of like doing the warm-up for the Hangout today, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm in Zero Brain. I must go and use it. And I'm starting to use the debugger all the time now. I don't know if this is going to make me a better developer or lazy or what. But
yeah. It's good to have tools at your fingertips, though.
There we are.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We're back here to talk about desktop game development. This is Corona Geek number 167. And if you haven't already, you need to go to youtube.com/CoronaGeek, and you need to watch the other sessions, because we've got, 4 of them now? Have we done 4?
4 or 5, yeah.
4 or 5, yeah. We've talked about the differences between desktop and mobile, the interactions and the things that you need to know and the inputs. We've talked about how to set up your project. We've looked at how to work with third-party assets and create reticles, which if you don't know what that is, you definitely need to go watch the Hangout to figure out what we're talking about. And we've also looked at how to create animations on the desktop, which isn't really a whole lot different than it is in mobile, but there are some differences when it comes to aiming and to moving things around and stuff like that. So we've been talking a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about that some more today as well. So joining us on the panel is Dr. Brian Burton down in Abilene. You can find his stuff over at burtonsmediagroup.com. Also joining us is Ed Marina from roaminggamer.com. Also joining us is Kevin from seaburngames.com. And we've got Steven Johnson from Zabalba Studios from down in Mexico. I always want to sing like something about umbrella drinks or something. What is it? What's his name? You know what I'm talking about? Nobody's going to say it. Okay.
You're killing me.
Jimmy Buffett?
In Paradise,
Jimmy Buffett.
Paradise.
Yeah, Jimmy Buffett. Yeah, Jimmy Buffett. For some reason, my brain went blank. I had a drink in my hand, and I was wearing flip-flops and a Hawaiian shirt, but I couldn't remember his name. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. And before we get into today's show, does anybody have any kind of announcements or anything they want to share?
I do, but you guys go first.
Okay, going once, going twice. Well, I will say it's not official yet, and we haven't announced anything yet. But if you watch this show, you get the inside scoop. So here we go. We're getting ready to announce very rough alpha support for tvOS. So if you are in that camp, you want to play with it, and you're kind of you don't want to have to go off and learn Objective-C or something like that or Swift. Then you're going to want to check out the tvOS support when it's officially announced. So I say it's alpha. It's definitely rough alpha. In that, we've got the Pew Pew example, which if you haven't checked out the sample code that comes with Corona, there's a Pew Pew example, which is the desktop version of the game where you have multiplayer inputs, and it works on tvOS. Now, there hasn't been a whole lot of testing done, so so that's where we say it's kind of, you know, it's alpha, definitely alpha, and tvOS and iOS are, there's overlapping similarities, but there's also things that are very, very different. If you do any sort of reading on tvOS, you'll those things will be highlighted right away. So we won't cover those here. But in terms of packaging things up and getting things out the door, you're going to need Enterprise to do that, because tvOS has some requirements in terms of top shelf graphics and just assets that go along in the tvOS, the Apple TV user experience, that the build process doesn't account for right now. So you need to be able to jump into Enterprise to be able to flip those flags and make everything work, so that if you do want to publish something to the store, you'd have the level of control that you need to be able to do that. So not everybody is comfortable with Enterprise, but that's kind of the state of things right now. And the last thing that I'll say on it is that, you know, we're working on getting the Mac desktop and Windows desktop platforms to the point where they're out of beta and polished and ready to go, you know, prime time, all that kind of stuff. So engineering resources are tied up there, along with, you know, regular bug fixes and feature requests and things like that that come in all the time anyway. So so tvOS is basically a lower priority. It's definitely something that we are excited about as well, but, you know, you gotta put things in order and address them in some sort of priority. So that's it. But I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be cool, and we're going to put out some, you know, the docs and tutorials and all that stuff up in the coming days and weeks. Ed, I saw you were excited about that.
I'm excited. I just need to unmute myself there before I got my woohoo out. Awesome.
I'm hoping we can roll some of the, you know, like once we get a little further down the road, we can maybe roll that into our desktop conversation. Maybe,
sure,
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know,
maybe,
but you're gonna have to do some of the testing, because I got nothing.
Yeah, well, I've got the device here, and, you know, there's some things that we should be able to do in the simulator. So
now you've got the stick controller, right? Not the joystick.
Yeah, so I actually have the. Yeah, I don't have the.
Sticky.
Yeah, I don't have a controller. I just have
it's got a mouse.
Siri remote.
Yeah. That's a mouse, right? At the top.
It's a trackpad. Yeah, it's a glass trackpad. So. Yeah. So
what I should do is when that gets rolling along, I should package up a quick demo just to key map and trackpad test your device to make sure that works.
Right. Exactly, and we can.
Just try that on the show.
Right. There you go. So I think that's going to be fun. I mean, it's going to be a different interaction set.
That's
right?
what I always do with my clients and other folks, is when they come to me and go, "Yeah, I got some new input I want." I'm like, "Okay, well, we got to make an input tester first."
Right. Yeah. You can't just run forward without knowing if you can do the basics. So.
I want to hook it up to their ear, and if they wiggle their ear, then I want the input. No.
Yeah. Right. Nah. Thanks for playing.
So I do have announcements, but only when you're done.
Yes, I'm done.
Okay.